Last Sunday, I went on my first monsoon ride of the season and it was amazing. The views, the scenery, everything was lovely and I enjoyed it. Sure, the monsoon hasn't set in properly yet, but it's a promise that the next rides are going to be incredible. But to get the most out of our monsoon rides, we need to keep some things in mind. For example, what to wear so that you can be dry. Luckily, I've made a video on it, which I'll put it over here and in the description that you can check out. But more important than what you're wearing is how you're riding the bike. And that is where this video comes in. This is part 2 of Riding in the Rain series that I have going on. And in this video, I'll talk about some things, some advice, skills you can learn that will help you become a sensible, better biker during the monsoon season. So let's start. I'm Ayush Rathod. This is the Blue Biker. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Before I go ahead, I want to tell you whatever tips and everything I have for you right now, none of that is in a chronological order from, whether it is the first one is the most important one or the least important one. Everything is equally important. So I'll just go ahead randomly. There are a lot of things that I have to talk about and some of things will be overlapping. Hopefully it makes sense to you. If not, just put it in the comment. I would love to explain it properly to you. Let's start. The first thing, number one, is being gentle with your rider inputs. What do I mean by that? Well, imagine you're braking, accelerating, taking a turn, whatever it is. Any abrupt input you put on your bike, for example, braking really hard will unsettle the bike and that can put a dent on your traction. You don't want that. You want to be as smooth as you can with the bike. And by smooth, I mean being gentle. I'm not saying don't go fast. You can go as fast as you want. I cruise on 120 when it's raining outside and it's completely fine. How you get to that 120 speed is what matters. Instead of just opening up the throttle really fast and going all out, be gentle, be smooth. That also applies for braking. I'll get to braking in a bit, but when you're braking, be gentle. Like a lot of other things in life, sometimes being gentle is a lot more pleasurable and fun. And the next thing that I'll just get clear out of the way is being predictable on the road. You're sharing the road with others, so just like you don't want to unsettle your bike with certain inputs, you shouldn't catch others off guard with your sudden movements on the road. So be predictable, give people around you enough space to know exactly what you're going to do before you do it. This will give them time to brake, slow, or go around you instead of just coming into you. Also be very visible. I covered that in the first video. Be as visible as you can. That is part of being predictable on the road, because if they don't see you, what's the point of you slowing down and giving them all the space they need? Third thing that you should do is target fixation. What is target fixation? Well, you see, this thing over here is a supercomputer. It will take you exactly where you're looking. There is a technique that is used by fighter pilots and bikers, mountain bikers, anyone who is actually moving through space and time will use target fixation, and we also use it. We just don't know we are using it. This is why sometimes when you look at a pothole and you want to avoid it, but since you're looking at it and you're like, oh, I have to go around it, your bike ends up going into the pothole. You need to train your brain on target fixation, and it takes some time, but once you do it, you will be a much safer rider, because now you can avoid potholes and a lot of other things on the road. What can you do over here? Well, one, don't look at the pothole. There are so many potholes on Indian roads right now, just don't look at them. Once you spot a pothole, don't keep your focus on the pothole. Keep your focus next to the pothole where the road is good, and your bike will most times go there. I'm not saying this works 100% of the times, but it works more than enough times where it has saved my bacon a lot of times. I said times and a lot many times. A part of target fixation is also knowing where to place your target or where to place your vision on the road. Most times we are riding on the road, we might look 20 meters ahead or 30 meters ahead, but when it's raining outside, try to look even further, as far as you can see. Make sure you have your glasses on. If you're wearing glasses, make sure you have the glasses on and look as far as you can see. This way you're giving yourself more time to deal with whatever comes up ahead. For example, if you're riding and you see a pothole that's 30 meters away, you're going to have a hard time breaking down and moving around it. But if you spot that pothole 50 meters away, you have 20 more meters to deal with it. You can break down, you can move around it, or you can just stand up and decide to go through it. Whatever it is, the further you look, the smoother you will ride. Then we come to the fourth one, I think. Yeah, then we come to the fourth one, which is braking. And you need to do a few things to make sure you know how to brake properly. This is very important because braking is where a lot of things go wrong when it's raining outside. Like I mentioned 2 or 3 times already, traction is not so much on the roads right now. And I'm not saying there's no traction at all, that you'll be sliding around on the road. The traction loss because of the rains is generally around 5 to 10% on most motorcycles. but that 5 to 10% is enough to be difficult to deal with sometimes. And braking properly is a way of dealing with it. So how do you do that? First, don't rely on ABS. I'm not saying ABS is bad. ABS is amazing. It has saved my life a few times, and I would never ride a motorcycle that does not have an ABS. But you shouldn't completely rely on it because sometimes ABS increases your braking distance. Instead, you need to learn how to brake as fast as possible without letting the ABS kick in. So how do you make sure you can brake in time? There are a few techniques that you can learn. One of them is knowing which brakes to use. A lot of the bikers I know personally only use the rear brake, and rear brakes are not good enough. 80%, I think 70 or 80% of your braking power comes from the front tire and the front brakes. If you are just using the rear brake, you will not stop in time. And I know it is scary. I used to do that when I started riding out. I used to just use the rear brake when it started raining because I didn't want to tuck the front end and fall. But there are ways to deal with it. Right now, where I am, I barely use my rear brake because I know most of the braking performance is from the front brake. But I would still recommend using both the brakes, but more pressure on the front, less pressure on the rear. Another thing you can learn about braking is progressive braking. What is progressive braking? It's a vast topic. I would love to make a video about it, but right now, I'll give you a gist of it. Progressive braking is applying light pressure to the brake in the beginning of the motion and then gradually increasing the pressure. What this will do is once you start applying the pressure, the front suspension will start loading up and that will put more pressure on the wheels and that will increase the traction you have on the front of the bike. Then you can start applying the pressure and your brake and your bike will stop a lot faster. It takes some time to learn and it takes some time to retrain your brain not to just grab the brakes whenever things go wrong. But once you learn that, you will realize your braking will improve drastically. If you have time, I would also suggest you learn what is threshold braking. It's a skill that you can learn in 1 or 2 hours, but it's definitely worth it. It's basically just knowing where the limits of your brakes and your tires are and using that when things go wrong. With braking out of the way, we then come to body positioning and how you sit on the motorcycle. There are two aspects of this and it's a pretty basic thing. It won't take you a lot of time to figure it out. The first aspect is sitting further back on your seat. This will put more pressure on the rear tire, which will increase traction whenever you are accelerating or just being on the road normally in a straight line. It's a small thing, but it works really well. The second thing is how you sit on the bike when you are going through corners. Normally on a dry road, you would lean with the bike like this or like this. Sometimes you may go like this, but when it's raining outside, your goal should be to lean before the bike and try to keep the bike as upright as possible. I'm not saying keep the bike straight and just tilt your head like this. That's not going to work. We have seen that meme countless times. Instead, try to kiss the mirror and you will figure out the riding position. It may change from bike to bike, but in my bike or on most street bikes, if you just try to kiss the mirror, you'll figure it out how to lean more than the bike and try to keep the bike as upright as possible. Then we come to things that you need to avoid when you're out on the road. There are 3 things that you should avoid at all costs. One of them is puddles because one, you don't know how deep that puddle is. I know it's fun to just go through a puddle and seeing the water fly around you. You don't know how that deep that puddle is and you don't know what that puddle is hiding. I have once put my front tire inside a gutter because I couldn't see it because of a puddle. I thought, hey, there's a rickshaw over here. I'll just go around him. There's a small puddle. I have waterproof shoes. I don't care. The moment I went in the puddle, whoop, my front tire is gone inside. Nothing happened to the bike. Nothing happened to me. The front tire maybe just got in and stuck. And then I had to pick up the bike and bring it out. But it was very scary because if that puddle was a little bit bigger, it would have swallowed my bike. And with puddles, there is a big risk of hydroplaning. What is hydroplaning? It's when instead of your wheels parting the water like Moses, your bike ends up gliding on water like Jesus, and you don't want that. The moment it happens, you lose all traction and your bike will go wherever it wants. And if you do have to take puddles, just let someone else pass and pass in the same line behind them and go very slow. There's no reason to rush through a puddle. Next come rainbows, and you should avoid rainbows too. These things are sometimes worse than puddles. My first crash and also one of my worst crashes happened because I rode through a rainbow and my bike just lost all traction on the wheels. Luckily, nothing happened to me. I was wearing a EC certified helmet, but yeah, if I was not wearing a good helmet, I would have probably broken my head. So rainbows are created because of all the oil and grease and petrol, diesel, whatever it is that drips down from trucks and cars and it collects and mixes with water and turns into this very colorful looking shape on the road. It looks pretty cool, but That thing has no traction at all. Another thing to avoid are painted surfaces like zebra crossing and white lines. I mean, you can pass through them easily, but don't try to be on them for a long time because even they don't have a lot of traction. Sometimes these things might not be avoidable. Sometimes you might end up on a patch of oil or a large patch of painted surface. In that case, remember target fixation. Look far ahead. Even if your bike starts losing traction, don't freak out. Don't press on the brakes. That is what happened with me. That is how I crashed. But don't go on the brakes. Don't go on the throttle. Just look as far ahead as possible, and there's a high chance you will get out of it unscathed. Yes, it is scary. Your bike will start doing this, and it will dance on the road. But as long as you're looking ahead, your body will take you over there. Another thing that is related to it is if you're riding on the highway, try to be on one side of the lane, like whether it is on the left side or the right, because it's the center part of the lane where all the oil and grease, diesel, whatever it is from trucks drips down, and those parts are usually more slippery than the sides of the lane. This is why when it's dry outside, you will notice on the highways that the center of the lane is always a bit darker than the sides. And finally, we come to the last part, which is all to do with this and nothing to do with the bike. And I cannot stress this enough. Stay calm on the road. People around you will make mistakes, and so will you. There is less visibility, there is low traction. Everyone is trying to deal with the rain, so give them enough room for error and give yourself the same. One more thing about being calm on the road is being prepared. Sometimes things will go wrong to such an extent that whatever you have learned will not work. You will figure it out. I've been lost in Ghats at night when it was pouring and I didn't have navigation. If I had freaked out, if I had, been stupid, I would probably have crashed somewhere in the jungle or just gotten myself stuck somewhere. It's about being calm and having the composure to take a breath and deal with it. And yeah, it may be scary when it is happening. That ride that I spoke about, where I was riding through the Ghat at night, it is still one of the scariest rides I've ever done. But in retrospect, it was mad fun. It was thrilling. It was an adventure. And that was character development. It helped me become a better biker. So when these things go wrong, it's okay. Learn to figure those things out, and they will make you a much better biker than you already are. The monsoons are the best riding season in India. The beauty is mind blowing. So enjoy it, and remember, don't sweat it. Your body is already wet from the rains. That's it for today. This was part 2 of the video. I will be making a third part where I will tell you how to maintain your motorcycle and how to take care of your riding gear when it's raining outside, like when it gets wet or whatever. Stay tuned for that. That video should be up in a few days. I still have not started working on it yet. Hopefully I try to make it tomorrow or day after, but sometimes life get busy. If you think I missed out some tips over here, some advice that you think would be helpful to me or other bikers in the community, feel free to drop them in the comments.